To exercise for chronic conditions. As I mentioned, we're going to be talking about three in particular: diabetes, osteoporosis, osteoarthritis. Why those three? Because they tend to be most common. And I'll show you what's going on and how can you predict if you are at risk, if you're not there yet, if you are at risk for those, and what can you do to reverse that. Now, there's quite a bit to it. Today, we're just talking about exercise. Nutrition, supplementation, and lifestyle, stress management, and sleep are very, very big components of that. Because we only have 2 hours, we're only going to cover the exercise side of things, okay? But if you have any questions later on, I will be open for Q&A. I'll stick around for 15 or so minutes, and we'll chat. So let's get to it. So here's the agenda for today. First, I'll give you my background. How did I end up here? We're going to talk about diabetes. We're going to talk about arthritis, osteoporosis. I'll make a special offer you can't refuse, and let's get to it. So what's my background? I was born in the Soviet Union. Before I was a year old, my father installed a chin-up bar in my house, and he made me hang off a chin-up bar just to develop upper body strength and grip strength. So no, that's not me, and no, that's not my dad. I mean, I don't wear pink. But that's an illustration of what was going on. When I was 6 years old, at that point, I was living in Israel, and so another chin-up bar came in our house. I guess he had a thing for chin-ups. And at that point, my father told me to do a set of chin-ups every day for the rest of my life. And at age 10, I listened to him. So by the time I was 10, I was able to do 19. As I found out, the military standard is 12. Next, in high school, I get very interested in martial arts. And that's when my passion for nutrition, for supplementation, for exercise began. And that's when I started to really research it. That's when I started to seriously get into it. And there's somebody who's going to be doing some push-ups. Now, unfortunately, during that time, my parents wanted me to be a computer programmer. Now, anybody who knows me pretty well, they laugh out loud for a long time because they know I can't sit still for an hour. So the thought of sitting still for 8 hours for 40 years was unfathomable. Fortunately, I did not become a computer programmer, as you can tell. I went to York University, graduated with a kinesiology degree, and about a year after I graduated, I was selected as one of the top 5 personal trainers in Toronto by the Metro News newspaper right here. Then this company called Regency Publishing, they approached me a little while later, and they said, well, we like what you've been doing. We've been following you around for about a year, which wasn't the least bit creepy. And they said, we're writing this book called Interviews with Top Personal Trainers. Would you like to contribute a chapter? We're just going to ask you a bunch of questions, like stuff that the consumer really wants to know, and you just answer those questions in text format. I said, sure. Once the book came out, I found out I was the only Canadian trainer interviewed for this book, Interviews with Top Personal Trainers. Then I came out with this book, Unlimited Progress, How You Can Unlock Your Body's Potential, with Khalil. And that's what this is. Excuse me for a second. Khalil, if you want, you can come right in. Oh, okay, gotcha. So Unlimited Progress, How You Can Unlock Your Body's Potential. What is that about? We know that when we start exercising, an exercise program will last you between 3 and 10 weeks. And then you can continue to do it, but you won't see any additional progress. And that can be pretty disappointing because you could be doing the same program for 2, 3, 4, 5 years, but not seeing additional results. So this tells you what to change. You know that you should change, but everybody's so different. We all reach a plateau for a different reason. So this book gives you hundreds of self-tests to figure out what makes you unique and adjust for your own body, okay? Because what works for your spouse, what works for your friend, what works for your kids may not work for you, okay? So this book helps you figure out how to do that. Now I'm working on a book called Stop Exercising the Way You Are Doing It Now, 7 Dangerous Fads That Will Backfire and Cause You to Stay Fat or Hurt Yourself. This is a compilation of the misconceptions I often hear at public speaking engagements, misconceptions I often hear from clients, from friends, and so on. And this has been put into this format, and this is due out in January, so it's coming out then. And I also like to give back to the community, to give back to local charities, so occasionally we have paid speaking engagements, and in January I donated everything to the Alzheimer's Society of York Region. February I donated everything to the Heart and Stroke Foundation of Ontario. Welcome. Grab a seat over here. And in April I donated to the Hill House Hospice. As Jitendra knows what that is. Basically, it's a facility in Richmond Hill where they take people in the last 4 weeks of their life and try to make it as pleasant as possible. Okay. So let's get to it. So who here has? I know you guys came a little late, but who here has or has a family history of diabetes? Just to get a clearer sense. Okay. Who here has or has a family history of osteoarthritis? Okay. Who here has or has a family history of osteoporosis? Okay. So some of us are all of the above. Some of us just want to get more information. So, what is diabetes? Who can tell me? That's not a rhetorical question. What is diabetes?
Pancreas isn't functioning properly?
That's type 1 diabetes. The pancreas does not release insulin. Yes, type 1 diabetes is about 10% of all cases of diabetes. So who can tell me what type 2 diabetes is?
Insulin?
Insulin resistance. What is insulin resistance? Does anybody know? Pop quiz.
I think to a certain age, your insulin is not, it's not really lack of, it's just not digesting the sugar.
Yeah, your body is producing insulin. In fact, type 2 diabetic often has too much insulin. It's just that when it's knocking on the doors of your cells, the cells kind of ignore the message. Okay, so although there's plenty of insulin, it doesn't cause blood sugar to go down. That's what it's supposed to do. And so blood sugar stays high. Okay, and that's diabetes. Before we continue, we did a quick introduction, so I'll get you guys introduce yourselves. So name and what you want to get out of this.
All right, so my name is Camille, and pretty much diabetes as well as the arthritis.
Yeah.
And that's for my mother as well.
Okay, great. Is she here today?
No.
Oh, okay.
So I'm absorbing extra.
Good.
Okay, so I'm Lily.
Lily?
Lily.
Okay.
I'm just coming with him and learn whatever it is.
Do you have or have a family history of any of the above? Osteoporosis, osteoarthritis, diabetes? No? Okay. So you were just dragged along.
Yeah.
Okay. So are you at risk for diabetes? So here are a few quick simple self-tests we use to figure out how at risk are you. First of all, do you have sugar cravings? You don't have to say yes or no, but just say yes or no to yourself. Do you have frequent urination? Do you get irritable if meals are missed?
Get irritable even if the meals are not missed.
That could be a different problem.
That's a totally different issue.
Okay, now here are some complications of diabetes. By the way, who had 3 out of 3? Good, 2 out of 3? Okay, 1 out of 3? And 0 out of 3. Good. So here's some complications of diabetes. Depression. Okay, so when you have diabetes, it can throw off blood sugar levels, which can cause hypoglycemia, meaning low blood sugar, and so you can develop imbalances in your brain chemistry. Now, if you guys want to record this, if you guys want to take notes, this is being recorded and it will be made available for sale right after the seminar, so you don't have to scramble to take your notes. Tissue death. This is a serious complication of diabetes. This is when tissues start to die. So you get, with diabetes, you get decreased circulation to both your hands and your feet and other organs. And so organs can start to die off if you have uncontrolled diabetes. Okay? So very, very important to address this. That's called necrosis, tissue necrosis.
Sorry, can I just ask you, what was the first complication? What
Depression.
was it called?
Depression.
Oh, sorry, after that.
Tissue necrosis is a technical term. Necrosis.
No, there's something with an I, you said.
I. Anybody remember?
Necrosis.
Complication, or are you at risk of?
Irritability? Maybe something like that?
Yeah, well, you had a
Okay,
name for
that's irritability. Oh, let's see. Frequent urination.
Sorry, no, it was the irritability, but you said something and you gave
Missed
it a
meals. Irritability.
yeah,
if
but you
you
gave
miss
it a
meals.
name.
I did.
Okay, that's okay.
Okay. If I remember, I'll let you know. Sexual dysfunction. For the same reason that you can get tissue death, you can get sexual dysfunction, decreased blood flow to those organs. Okay. In both men and women, by the way.
Is that a complication of your sugar level being too low or too high, or it doesn't
Both.
matter?
Here's the thing, both high blood sugar and low blood sugar will compromise blood flow to all different parts of your body. So that's one of the big complications of it. Okay, so how to exercise. And so the way this is structured today is I'm going to tell you how to exercise, then after we cover all 3 conditions, we are going to go out into the gym and actually exercise, okay? Not to worry, it's nothing strenuous, it's just to get you moving so you have an idea of what the right exercises are for different conditions. Because remember, what's right for diabetes may not be right for osteoporosis and may not be right for osteoarthritis, and all 3 are related, okay? Yeah.
Sorry, and with the sugar cravings, isn't there like hypoglycemia? Like you can be...
Yeah, so hypoglycemia means low blood sugar. Hyperglycemia or diabetes means high blood sugar. both, neither one is good, but hypoglycemia is more of an issue with your adrenal glands, whereas hyperglycemia is more of an issue either with your pancreas, which is the type 1 diabetic, or the cells themselves as in the type 2 diabetic, insulin resistance. Okay? Any other questions? Good, good, good. So how should you exercise? For diabetes, for both prevention and management, a combination of strength training and cardio is the most appropriate method. A lot of people neglect the strength training, and that's not right. Why? Because where do you think blood sugar is metabolized and stored? Fat cells, to some extent, it's stored there. It's not metabolized there, though. It's metabolized in the liver. 90 grams of it is metabolized in the liver. 350 grams is metabolized in the muscle, so that's correct. So what happens if all we do is just cardio? You actually burn muscle faster than if you were a couch potato. Okay? And so you lose your ability to control your blood sugar if you lose muscle. In fact, the #1 factor for longevity is muscle mass. Okay? And it's not so much how much you have, it's how little of it you lose. They did a major study in the 1980s at Tufts University called biomarkers. Does anybody know what that is? Biomarkers is sort of your biological age versus your chronological age. Chronological age is how long you've been alive. Biological age is how old you look, feel, and function. Okay? And so biological age is first and foremost determined by your amount of muscle mass. And again, not so much how much you have, but how little of it you lose. Okay? So I'll tell you a story. The oldest person to ever live, I don't remember her name, but she was French. She died in 1997 at the age of 122. At 84 years old, she started fencing. Got a little bored in retirement, so she took up that vigorous activity. At 114, she was still riding a bicycle. Okay? At 117, she quit smoking. And at 122, she died. So a person's that active.
Scared of the smoke?
Yeah.
Maybe it's that. Maybe she shouldn't have given it up. Maybe she shouldn't have given it up. So it's, again, it's not so much how much muscle you have, it's how little of it you lose. Because have we ever heard the saying, little old man, little old lady? Have we ever heard the saying, big old man, big old lady?
No.
It doesn't exist. Because if you're big, you usually don't get to be old. So that's how you exercise. So you try to maintain as much muscle mass as possible through strength training. Unfortunately, the way most people do strength training is not right. So often I ask a person to use strength training, especially women. Women will say, sure, I do body pump class. Does anybody know what that is? You go into an aerobic studio, you have 1 or 2 pound dumbbells, and you wave them around. Well, that's not really strength training. That's cardio with weights, but it's still cardio and it still burns muscle. Strength training, my definition of strength training is using a weight that is challenging enough that you are not able to do more than 15 repetitions. Okay? So it should be challenging enough that you're not able to do more than 15 repetitions. If you can do more than 15, it's no longer strength training. It's not really having a favorable effect on your blood sugar, or it's not as favorable of an effect on your blood sugar or your bone strength. Okay? So very important to use a challenging amount of weight, and very often people underestimate how much that is. The caveat to that is that it's much better to use a lighter weight if you don't have somebody with you, so you don't get injured, than a heavier weight. Okay?
Do you want build up to the heavier?
Well, here's the thing. Heavy is relative to your abilities. Okay? So if you're a first timer and you're doing a deadlift,
Yeah.
very often a middle-aged woman, I will start them off at about between 45 and 50 pounds. Yeah, because most people seriously underestimate their abilities. Think about it this way. Do you have kids?
Yes.
Okay. When your kids were toddlers, how much did they weigh? 30, 40, 50 pounds?
Depended on at what age.
At what age, right? But
yeah.
you used to lift them up until a certain age.
Oh, yeah.
So you used to lift up 30, 40, 50 pounds.
Yes.
Right? So when it's a baby, it's a baby. When it's a weight, it's not a baby, so you think it's a weight. Right?
It's distributed.
But 50 pounds is 50 pounds, you know?
It's a dead weight as opposed, no, my kids are dead weight, so. Sorry.
Right? So 50 pounds is 50 pounds. So very often, even an untrained, first-time, middle-aged woman, I will start her off at 45 to 60 pounds. My record client, she was 78 years old, and she was lifting 90. Wow. She did not have osteoporosis or arthritis. So very, very important to challenge yourself. Now, an untrained male, depending on the age, but if he's usually between 25 and 40, I'll start him off between 75 and 110. Unless he's Yahuda, I'll start him off to a 200. But otherwise, no, I'm just kidding. He doesn't do that much yet, but we'll get him on. Otherwise, yes.
Question. So if loss of muscle is tied to the age of biological, right?
To some extent.
Right. Okay. So if you actually stop losing, so if you keep losing muscle, you're getting older. Right?
Yeah.
And then you kind of will wake up and start gaining muscle again. So kind of reversing.
Yes.
Is that considered reversing the aging?
Absolutely. Yeah. So if you can actually gain muscle after you've lost it, it's much easier to gain after you've lost than it is if you've never lost it. To go higher, it's tough. But if you've lost it, it's the very first 2 to 6 months, you're actually going to see a very quick increase in muscle mass, and yeah, you will reverse your age quite quickly. Absolutely. Suzanne?
Now, if it's a woman who gains muscle very quickly,
Yeah.
would you still give her the heavy weights to use?
Okay, so the question is, I guess everybody heard it, would we still give a woman who gains muscle very easily heavy weights to use? The answer is it depends on where she's starting from. If she's already frail to begin with and she gains muscle mass very quickly, absolutely we'll start her off. Now, if she already has sufficient amounts of muscle, she's not deficient in muscle, not necessarily. Okay, so to go from deficient to sufficient, that's going to be the biggest bang for your buck. Okay, to go from sufficient to extremely good, not that much benefit.
Okay, so then what ratio of strength to cardio would you have somebody do?
Good question. And it depends on a lot of different factors. What is your age? What is your sex? What are your goals? What medical conditions do you have? How easily do you gain muscle? So we don't know unless we know all these factors. Furthermore, different people respond to training differently. That's why we measure our clients every 2 to 4 weeks in body composition to see what's going on in their body. After all, if you're not assessing, you're guessing. Because like I said, everybody responds differently. And we don't know how to adjust your training unless we measure systematically and adjust based on that. Okay, other questions?
Sorry, how do you know if you are someone who develops muscle quickly or slowly?
If you know, if you gain it quickly, you know it.
Yeah, you know it.
Yeah, you know it.
You'll see it.
What's the metabolism change with age, too?
It's also your hormones. So often women with PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, tend to have, that just means they have excess androgens, testosterone, and they will gain muscle mass easier than they want to. Also, we see that in obese women who have excess body fat, they tend to gain muscle too easily because excess body fat to women is masculinizing, to men is feminizing. Okay, so women who do have excess body fat will tend to gain muscle easier than women who don't. Okay, other questions?
Is
Yes.
arthritis and osteoarthritis the same thing, or is it
Good question. Is arthritis and osteoarthritis the same thing? The answer is yes and no. Arthritis is a broad category that means inflammation of the joints. Arth means joint, itis, anything itis means inflammation. Okay? Arthritis, plantar fasciitis, bursitis, all that's inflammation. Osteoarthritis is a subtype of arthritis, but there are many different subtypes of arthritis. There is gout, there is osteoarthritis, there is rheumatoid arthritis, and there are a number of other ones. Okay? So osteoarthritis literally means wear and tear. Okay? So it's sort of a misnomer because it should not be called arthritis. It really should be called arthrosis. Okay? Itis is inflammatory, osis is degenerative, because there is not much inflammation going on in osteoarthritis. It's more deterioration. In rheumatoid arthritis, that's when it's truly arthritis, but it really should be called arthrosis, even though it isn't. Okay?
That's what I have there.
Arthrosis?
Yeah,
Okay.
more so.
Yeah, there you go.
Thank you.
No problem. What to expect? So what to expect if you combine a combination of strength training and endurance training, i.e. cardio. So in this medical journal, Analysis of Internal Medicine, combination of aerobic and exercise training reduced blood sugar by 18% in 5 months. Okay? Now that's not bad. But remember this, in studies they have to isolate a single variable, just exercise. Now what happens if you combine that with proper nutrition, proper supplementation, and proper lifestyle? Usually a type 2 diabetic 95% of type 2 diabetics can become a non-diabetic within about 2 months. Okay? That's what happens when we combine everything. Okay? So it's powerful effects. Okay? What to expect continued. So like I said, 95% of type 2 diabetics can become non-diabetic in 2 months or so, 60 days. This is by a very well-known clinical nutritionist and chiropractor out of Houston, Texas, Dr. Robert Rogowski, one of my favorite speakers. Arthritis. Who can tell me what I just told you, but who can say it back to me? What is osteoarthritis?
Pain.
Pain.
Wear and tear.
Wear and tear. It's the wearing out of your cartilage. Correct. And down the line, far down the line, that's what it can look like. Okay? So you can see all these spurs coming out, and that's because bones are sitting on top of bones anymore without cartilage in between, and they start to grow wider as opposed to longer. Okay? Are you at risk for osteoarthritis? Here's the first risk factor. Are you overweight? That's just excess pressure on the joints. Okay? Bad posture. Okay? We'll figure out later on in the gym if you have good posture or bad posture. But bad posture will cause rubbing, unnecessary rubbing. Suddenly everyone straightens out. Unnecessary rubbing between different joint surfaces. And yeah, that can be a big risk factor for osteoarthritis. See, there are 3 types of forces in the body. There's something called tensile forces, which means pulling, like stretching. There's compressive forces, which means compressing, squeezing. And then there are shear forces. Shear forces is sliding or gliding. Okay? The body can handle compression fairly well. The body can handle tension fairly well. It doesn't handle gliding or shear forces very well. And that's when your cartilage wears out and your joints start to deteriorate, you get pain. Okay? So posture is a big one. Previous injury. Okay? Previous injury is one of the biggest risk factors for osteoarthritis if you do not rehabilitate it properly. Okay? You can get some degenerative changes in that joint, and again, if you don't have proper rehabilitation, which does include proper nutrition, which most chiros and physios are not trained in, you will get osteoarthritis decades or possibly years down the line. Okay? Now, by the way, these are, when I'm giving you these risk factors for diabetes, osteoarthritis, osteoporosis, these are just 3. When we actually work with clients, we give you 321 questions to fill out to figure out what are you at risk for. And so it gives us a much more comprehensive look. So people who've worked with us, like Keiko or other people, you've gotten those questionnaires, so you know what I'm talking about. Complications of osteoarthritis. Osteonecrosis. What does necrosis mean? Pop quiz. I said it earlier.
Inflammation.
Death. Itis.
Itis.
Yeah. This is osteonecrosis. Osteo means bone. Necrosis means death. Okay. So your bone literally starts to die off. Your bone, not your blood, not your skin, not your muscle. Your bone starts to die. So osteonecrosis is a risk, is a complication of osteoarthritis, because again, cartilage wears out, so it doesn't cushion anymore, so it just starts to wear out.
And that's mainly in the joints, right?
That's in the joints, yeah. This, by the way, is the hip joint. This is like the ball and socket. Okay? Bleeding inside the joint. Okay? So veins, arteries, tendons, ligaments all run through different joints, and so if the cartilage isn't there anymore to provide the space, it can collapse on itself and you can get bleeding right within the joint. The dangerous thing about it is that you don't know it. You feel pain, but how long does it take to actually get to an emergency room, and if you actually recognize that it's pain from that? Very, very important to address that. And the best addressing it is prevention, or if you already have it, there are ways to reverse it. Okay? Pinched nerves are also a big risk factor. And so sciatica, does everyone know what that is? Sciatica is an inflammation of the sciatic nerve, and somebody described it as like having the worst toothache in your back. And so you can get a pinched nerve if the cartilage between your vertebrae wears out, and so the vertebrae kind of sit on top of each other instead of providing this nice cushion. Okay, so a pinched nerve can cause a sciatica, but it can also cause a bunch of other different issues depending on where it gets pinched. If it gets pinched in the cervical spine or the neck, you can get a bunch of numbness and tingling down your hand, and so you can't really function. Okay, you can't really grip on too many things. And again, there are ways to reverse these things and prevent them. Okay. So how should you exercise if you have or if you want to prevent osteoarthritis? First of all, muscle imbalances are one of the biggest risk factors. Okay, posture is an example of muscle imbalance. Injuries are preceded by muscular imbalances, and so is osteoarthritis. And here's an example. Especially in women, there is a huge imbalance between quadriceps, the front of the thigh, and hamstrings, or the back of the thigh, for a number of reasons. One is women. High heels are big, yeah, that was number 2. Another one is that naturally women have a pelvis that's tilted forward more than men, so that shifts more of the weight to the quadriceps. Okay, the ideal ratio in terms of strength between front and back is 1:1. So if you can do 100 pounds this way, you should be able to do 100 pounds this way. Okay, most women have an imbalance of 2:1 or 3:1. Okay, so it's quite significant. Now once you're able to balance that out, you are at much lower risk for osteoarthritis in your knees. And that's just an example of around the knees, but the same imbalance can exist in your chest and back, biceps and triceps, abdominals and lower back. So we systematically assess our clients who want to prevent osteoarthritis. What are your muscular imbalances? How do we reverse those? Okay, because if you're going to train like everybody else, well, sport and exercise by its very nature is imbalanced. Think about tennis. You're only going to serve with one hand. Think about golf. You're only going to twist to one side. Think about dancing. You're only going to move, turn to you're going to move to one side more than the other side. Every sport is inherently balanced. Life is inherently balanced. If you're a cashier, you're always going to go to one side, right? You're always going to go to one side. So life is inherently balanced. So it's important to identify those imbalances and use specific targeted exercises to your body type to reverse those. And we're going to show you how to do some of that later on. Okay? What to expect once you implement different strategies for reversal or prevention of osteoarthritis. One is pain reduction. So if you are in pain, pain is caused by a number of things. Could be caused by acidity. Could be caused by actual mechanical problems. Could be caused by neurological problems. So it's important to assess different factors. The unfortunate thing is that most professionals have a very narrow specialization. So chiropractors, they're good at the neurology, they're good at the mechanics, and nutrition side, they're not really trained in. Naturopathic doctors are great at the nutrition, not really trained on the mechanical side of things, or the muscular or the neurological, right? You also have more energy, because if you have less pain, there is less stuff that's sapping your energy. Furthermore, if you optimize your mechanics, you improve your posture, a well-aligned human being is a marvelous work of architecture. It's just bone stacked on bone, stacked on bone, stacked on bone, using no energy to hold yourself up. On the other hand, if you have poor posture, you're actually going to use your lower back muscles, your neck muscles, to hold yourself up to prevent yourself from going further forward. So you're constantly under tension, and that's burning up your energy, okay? Improved strength. And then, like I said, strength and muscle mass are two of the most important things for longevity, quality of life, and biological anti-aging. And improved posture. Okay, and these are just some of the benefits of what you can expect if you do optimize your muscular imbalances and use proper nutritional and supplementation and lifestyle strategies to be able to reverse it. Again, we're only covering the exercise side of things today, but it's very, very important to combine with proper nutrition, supplementation, and lifestyle. Okay, we already have the newsletter. Osteoporosis. Who can tell me what that is?
When the bone's thin.
When the bone's thin. Has anybody ever had an Aero chocolate bar? Shame on you, let's all do some push-ups. Just kidding. So an Aero chocolate bar has little bubbles on the inside. That's kind of like a normal bone. If those bubbles get bigger, that's kind of like an osteoporotic bone. Okay? So it's much, much more easy to collapse. And here's the thing, people often think that fractures happen when you fall, when there's some impact on you, but if you get to a severe stage, you can actually damage bones just standing there, or just sitting there. Just the weight of your head, your chest, your thoracic cavity will compress everything below, and so joints can just collapse, or bones can just collapse if they get weak enough, okay? And so, are you at risk for osteoporosis? When we've worked with clients who had osteoporosis, we've all, and when I say we, it means myself and the trainers, you guys, the trainers that are available, like Peter and so on. So this is something we've identified that's very, very common to people with osteoporosis. They have weak muscle strength. Not just bone strength, but muscle strength. Why? This is my theory. The harder a muscle can pull on a bone, the denser that bone gets. And so what if you have weak muscles that don't really pull on bones all that hard? That bone gets weaker, okay? And so if you have poor muscle strength, and we're going to teach you how to assess if you have poor muscle strength, or poor enough muscle strength, that will put you at high risk for osteoporosis. Here's one very simple test. Take 15 pounds in your hands, squat down, and come up, okay? Now it's not enough to just squat down to this depth and come up. You actually have to go all the way down, up very easily. Okay. Now, if in a person with very weak muscles, here's what will happen: they go down and they're gonna struggle to come up, and then they come up. Okay, and that's what you'll see a person with very low muscle strength. Okay, so when one of our clients, she was a 53-year-old female, very, 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 very thin. She was probably about 105 pounds and 5'4", so she needed to gain weight, but she was not able to actually get that 15 pounds off the floor, and 15 pounds is not much. Okay, so muscle strength is a key factor. Now, funny enough, when we improved her muscle strength, which took about 9 months, not 9 months over time, she actually went back to her doctor, and her osteoporosis just stopped right there. So it did not deteriorate any further, even though that's what her doctor had predicted. So she was quite surprised. So the doctor asked her what she was doing, and so she explained she was strength training. Okay. Now, yes, cardio is good for other reasons, but it will not help you very much with your bone mass. Okay. Funny enough, actually, endurance athletes tend to have poorer bone mass than couch potatoes. Anybody know why? We're talking about hardcore endurance athletes.
Because they're only training certain
Yeah.
certain muscles. They're kind of like if you're
No.
a swimmer,
Yeah.
you're using the same
Yeah.
muscles all the time.
Not only that, but also because
Stop.
what's that?
They stop.
It's not because of the stopping. Actually, they have poor bone density while they're active athletes. The reason being is that different training protocols will stimulate different hormones. Okay, and so when you do long duration cardio, it increases cortisol, which is a stress hormone. Cortisol breaks down things. It breaks down fat, sure, but it also breaks down muscle and it also breaks down bone. Okay, and if you're releasing cortisol, if you're running a marathon that's 2.5, 3 hours, if you're at the elite level, you're releasing a lot of cortisol and burning both muscle mass and bone mass. Has anybody ever seen a muscular marathon runner? They don't exist.
Says weight.
Right, because a marathon runner does not need to have muscle, okay? The one very well-known long-distance coach says the ideal marathon runner is just legs and lungs, okay? They don't need muscles. Legs and lungs is the ideal marathon runner, or cyclist, or swimmer, or whatever. So muscle strength is a key factor towards helping you gain muscle mass. Does it mean you should never do cardio? No, it still has benefits. Just don't do it excessively, don't do it exclusively. So do it in conjunction with strength training. Yes?
What happens to that elite athlete when they stop their sport?
They gain incredible amounts of fat.
Okay.
Why? Because they actually slow down their metabolism by jogging, by swimming, by cycling. Because think of it this way. Your body gets good at whatever you tell it to get good at. Okay? You play the piano, eventually you get good at playing the piano. You drive a lot, theoretically, you get better at driving. Not always practically. Okay? Now, you jog a lot, you tell your body to store energy. Okay? You don't burn energy, so while you're running, your body thinks, our bodies are basically 40,000 years old when there was famines all the time. So if you're telling your body that you're constantly, there's constantly energy being burnt, it's going to store it. It's going to hold hard onto it. And so it's really going to slow down your metabolism outside of those 2 or 3 or whatever hours you're running and really make you hold on to fat. Okay? It'll actually slow down your thyroid, increase your cortisol. It may do negative things to your insulin as well. So excessive and exclusive cardio is not the way to go. And balance is key. That's the message. Okay? Gastrointestinal problems. If you have gastrointestinal problems, you have a high risk of osteoporosis. Anybody know why? Well, if you can't absorb protein, what are bones made of? Protein. If you can't absorb calcium, if you can't absorb other minerals, you're not going to be able to have the nutrients necessary to build bone. And by the way, just as an aside, we think of calcium as the bone nutrient. Calcium is only 13% of bone. Bones require a lot of other minerals to be made, and protein is very, very important for that. And it's not a mineral, but it is very important. Okay. So again, if you have gastrointestinal problems, you won't be able to absorb all the nutrients you're required to make bone. If you are too acidic, anybody know what what pH is? pH is the level of acidity of different tissues. So your blood has a certain pH. It's a 0 to 14 scale that goes from acidic to alkaline. Okay? You probably remember this from high school science class. But the more acidic you are, the more your bones need to release the minerals they're made of to be able to alkalize the blood. Okay? Your body will give up everything for the blood. Think of it this way: your blood is like your living room, in the sense that that's the room you keep clean. Okay? Whereas other tissues, maybe like the bedrooms, where you don't mind if they're dirty because nobody sees them. Okay? So that's what pH is. And if you're too acidic, again, your bones will deteriorate to try and keep your blood between 7.35 and 7.45. Okay?
Also, too alkaline is a problem too, isn't it?
Too alkaline is a problem too, but that's much rarer. That's not very common. And so what are some of the complications of osteoporosis? Spinal fracture. Yeah, that can happen upon impact, but again, if you let it go long enough, your bones get too weak and they just collapse on themselves, sometimes without any impact whatsoever. Okay. Loss of height and poor posture are numbers 2 and 3. Okay, why? Because the bone thins out, so everybody is actually going to be about 1 inch to 1.5 inches shorter later on in the day than first thing in the morning. Okay, but we're also going to be shorter as we age. Why? Because of the wearing away of bone mass. That can be prevented with maintenance of bone mass and maintenance of hydration status, because those discs between the vertebrae, a lot of them are water. By the way, when you're born, you are about 80% water. If you die natural death and you're elderly, you're in the 70s or 80s, you're going to be about 50% water. Okay, so you lose water as you age. Okay, so drink some water.
What do you call the second one, like the hump?
It's called Dowager's hump.
How do you s-
Dowager's, D-O-W-A-G-E-R-S. Dowager's hump.
And is that hereditary, or that's just?
It doesn't have to be there.
Okay.
If your mother had it, chances are you're living the same lifestyle as your mother. Okay, but
Okay.
lifestyle is controllable. Okay, so how do you exercise? What is the fitness plan for osteoporosis? We've actually had quite a few osteoporosis clients, so we've actually developed a proprietary method to reverse the osteoporosis fairly quickly. And again, this is just the exercise side of things. There is a nutrition supplementation lifestyle component. So first of all, resistance training. This is Granny. This is not Photoshop. Okay, this is 315 pounds that this 70-plus-year-old woman is lifting. So as it says, put me in a home, I put you in the ground. So strength training is critical, much more so than endurance training. Okay, so resistance training is absolutely crucial if you're very, very frail to begin with. By far the most effective exercise for reversing and preventing osteoporosis is jumping. You need impact. Okay, so step 2 is resistance training plus jumping onto something. Okay, why? Because when you jump onto something, there is low impact. When you jump up and down, there's more impact. When you jump off something and just stick the landing, there's a lot of impact. Okay, now it takes time to build up to when your bones are strong enough to be able to handle that impact. Okay, so that's step 2. Step 3, resistance training plus jumping in place, because again, there is more impact when you jump up and down, okay, because you're absorbing all that force. Trampolines don't work. They absorb too much force. You need to hit something hard, like the ground. And so what do you expect when you are able to exercise the right way for reversing osteoporosis? One thing you can expect is increased bone mass. No surprise there. That's the goal of exercise for osteoporosis. Another thing you can expect is low risk of fractures. So often people who are at risk for osteoporosis or have osteoporosis worry about bumping into the smallest thing because A, their skin will get bruised very, very easily, but also if your bones are weak enough, again, it doesn't take impact to fracture something. Now if you have impact, that raises your risk all that much more. Improved strength and muscle tone. Well, if you strength training, you'll have better strength. Not much to say there. Better energy. So you have parts of the cells called the mitochondria, and they produce energy. It's called ATP, adenosine triphosphate. Now, if you are untrained, you don't have a lot of them. If you are trained, the mitochondria can actually double in number and triple in efficiency. What does that mean? They can actually produce 3 times as much ATP per mitochondria, but there are now 2 of them. Okay, so you can literally get 6 times more energy, and that's measurable. Okay, and that's what you can expect as a result of proper training for your condition. So as you noticed, it's not exercise is good for you. Yes, it is, but it has to be very, very targeted to your condition, your age, your lifestyle, your history, and so on, your goals, and much, much more. Okay. So physical components, we're going to go out in the gym and do the actual exercises for our diabetes, osteoarthritis, osteoporosis. But before we do, I've been talking for about 50 minutes. So quiz for you guys. What are 10 things you learned in the last 50 minutes? This helps you with retention.
10 things I learned.
10 things.
6 times ATP.
6 times the ATP if you go from untrained to trained. Excellent. You can double the number and triple the efficiency.
And strength training is, along with cardio, is very important. You can't just do cardio alone
For what? For which condition?
for diabetes.
Yes. For diabetes, strength training plus cardio. Absolutely. Number 3.
Increase bone mass.
Yep. What about it? Yeah, you should increase your bone mass.
Yeah.
Strength training has to be challenging. 15 reps
Yes.
max.
If you can do more than 15 reps, it's not bad for you, but it's not strength training. And it won't have the benefits that you're looking for. Great. Number 4. Where's that for? Sorry, number 5.
It's not just exercising, it's specific types of
Yes.
exercise for what you have.
Yeah. So when we're actually working with clients, we're looking at health history, exercise history, goals, medical conditions, hormonal profile, symptoms, digestive health. So there's a lot that goes into account. Okay. Number 6.
Down here's hump can be prevented if you're doing certain strength training.
Dowager's hump can be prevented by optimizing your posture. Correct. By the way, Dowager's hump is not fat, it's not muscle, it's just connective tissue. Tendons, ligaments, fascia.
It's, sorry, what kind of tissue?
Connective tissue.
Connect.
Yeah.
What is it, like just shrinking?
What do you mean?
Like the
Oh,
tendons
no, no,
and
no. It's
ligaments, are
actually
they just
growing.
tightening?
They're not shrinking, they're growing.
It's growing, well then, why is it
Well,
compressed?
you have a hump there, right? That hump is not fat.
No.
That hump is connective tissue because now your body has to build extra support to prevent yourself from going even further forward.
Oh, okay.
So it's kind of like a tree stem. Like
Yeah.
when it goes towards the light, it starts to curve.
Yeah, imagine you have the Leaning Tower of Pisa, right? It's leaning over, and so you need more support on the other side where it's leaning away from. Same thing happens in the body. Number 7.
It's never too late to start.
It's never too late to start. It's a very good message. And funny enough, the older you are, the more deconditioned you are, the more benefits you're going to see versus somebody who's at the peak of their game. For them to see additional benefits, they have to bust their butt. For somebody who's very old, who's elderly and deconditioned, they have to do very little to see a lot. Excellent. Good message. Yes. Number, was that 7, 8?
Osteoporosis is reversible.
Osteoporosis is absolutely reversible through the right approach of training, nutrition, supplementation, lifestyle.
And so is type 2 diabetes.
And so is type 2 diabetes. Again, 95% of type 2 diabetics can be non-diabetic in 60 days.
Why is that information
Not out there.
not out there?
Because
It is
preventative
out
medicine
there
is
about
bad for repeat
diabetes.
business.
It is out there
Big
about
pharma
diabetes.
loses, yeah, they won't let you.
Is that on camera? Good. Number 9.
Along with exercise, you also need proper nutrition and proper supplementation as well.
Absolutely.
Just
So
one
nutrition,
component.
supplementation, lifestyle, and exercise.
Lifestyle.
Lifestyle means stress management and sleep.
The information about diabetes that's out there, if you lose even 5% of your body fat, that you can reverse type 2 diabetes.
5% is not enough to reverse it.
Well,
However,
that's what they say about type 2. That's
Yeah.
only with the information that's out there that
Yeah.
I've heard. That's it.
It's good information. It's partially reversible at 5%. But why not get all the way there?
Well, I'm just saying it is out
Yeah.
there, but whether, whatever, it's just different.
Yeah. Basically, they want to give you conservative estimates, and so it's definitely beneficial to lose 5% of whatever body fat you have. Why don't we get you all the way there, though? Why don't we also give you some strength training to gain some muscle, so you're able to burn off more sugar and lose body fat and give you the right nutrients and optimize your stress levels? Then we're going to have very, very good results. Anything else? Number 10.
Drink lots of water.
What's that?
Drink lots of water.
I don't remember mentioning that, but that's good. Okay, yeah, I guess for hydration status for osteoporosis. Okay, excellent, yeah. Perfect. Let's go out and exercise.
Igor, I'll be watching.
Okay. There's one more question. Okay. Okay. Exercises for diabetes. Remind me, what is the right form of exercise for diabetes? Strength training. So what's one of the best strength training exercises available? Squats. So let me show you a good squat. So in a good squat, your feet are slightly wider than shoulder width apart. Toes are turned out 10-15 degrees. Okay, so they're not facing totally forward. Drop your hips down until they're as low as you can go, and come back up. Good. That's it. And so here's the big mistake. We don't want to go down to just here. We want to go down to here. And back up.
And if you can't go down to there?
Look at that. Sorry?
And if you can't go down to there?
If you can't go down to there, I'll show you the regression. It's very, very important to be able to get that back. Because when we were babies, all of us could do that. It's not something we gain, something that we regain. So, what's that?
I could go if I will read you.
Not so much for this. Yoga is decent flexibility training. It has a component of strength training, but for diabetes reversal, not optimal.
Osteoarthritis.
Osteoarthritis.
Oh, sorry, osteoporosis.
Well, not ideal. Not enough of that. Not enough of that. In fact, it's key for osteoporosis. So yeah, let's squat. So straight down, straight up. And if you can't do it, that's fine. Okay, and so here, if you cannot squat, by yourself here, what you do? Coming over here. Hold on to this. Okay, hold on to something. Let it down, and bring it back up. Let it back down, bring it back up. Okay? So hold on to something, and that engages it if you can't really hold on to it. But we have 4 poles here, so grab on those. Give it a try. And go. Don't be shy.
How many times do you want us to do it?
Again, what is strength training? Anything under 15. Okay? So, if you feel you can do more than 15, too light for you. Too easy for you. So, lift the weights. And here's one thing you don't want to do. Do not let your heels rise. Keep the heels flat. That can damage the knees.
Okay.
What's that?
I have 2 joints that have been replaced and have restricted my range of motion.
Oh, okay. If you have them surgically replaced, there's other things you can do.
So that's where I have to raise my
There are some things you can do to enhance the range of motion. Right? Never be what it was, but you can certainly make it better than what it is now.
I hold on back.
Yeah. We had one, I should have put her in the had one client who had knee surgery 25 years ago. The longer you wait to restore range of motion, the longer it takes. But even after 25 years, it's 1988, we've been able to almost get it back to normal. Depending on what the surgery was.
I thought as much as I was going to get from dealing with this.
Well, maybe they've done with everything you were going to get. I mean, I don't know what they did.
Yeah.
But since they didn't do what they did, okay, there's still more stuff you can do. So, if you found that easy, grab a weight.
Oh.
Sorry.
Okay, so that's it. So sponsor one exercise. Here's another one. Good old push-ups. Okay, so a standard push-up. Okay, just on the ground. Simple down, simple up, simple down, simple up. Okay. Common mistakes is this. Okay, that's not a push-up. Common mistake number 2. Common mistake number 2 is this. Not going down all the way. Common mistake number 3, my favorite. Okay? None of those are a push-up. Now, if you can't do a push-up, you can do a push-up against the wall. So come around, come on the sides. You can do it this way. Down, up, down, up. You want your hands to be slightly below shoulder width. Sorry, slightly below shoulders. And then, that's perfect, yeah. That's it. Good. That's it. Good. Good technique, people. Good, no showing off. Oh, those aren't push-ups though. Those are rows. But they're fun too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have just as much benefit when you do it using those type of push-ups with the knees bent as you do with that?
For again, it's heavy is relative to your ability. So if you find that heavy, absolutely. So heavy is not. There's no absolute heavy. There's heavy relative to your abilities. Yeah. Okay. And back to your spots once you're done. Back to your spots.
My son's going.
Okay. Now, who found that easy? Come on, you haven't learned that's the biggest thing.
Very different.
Good. You're learning well. You're learning well. So if you did find that easy, again, if you're able to do more than 15, you should probably move on to the next step. Now there are a few steps in between that and straight push-ups, so if you can do those easy, but you can't do a single push-up, you can do it on a right line. For example, you might find a chair or something like this, and you push ups on this, like that. Okay? Or if that's too hard, you find something higher. The lower you go, the harder it is. Okay? So those are some push-up variations, and push-ups work the muscles of the chest, front of the shoulder, back of the arm. Okay? So these are a few good exercises. Here's another good one. These are called hip lifts. So you lie down on the ground if you're able to, and then just lift your hips up, hold for 3 seconds, lower down. Lift the hips up, hold for 3, lower down. Okay.
That's a yoga thing.
What's that?
That's a yoga thing.
That's a strength training thing.
But they do it in yoga as well.
Yeah, sure. There's an overlap. Yes. Good. So bend your knees, Carol. That's it. That's it. Good. That's it.
So these exercises are for...
These exercises are good for diabetes. It's not like there is an exercise for diabetes, exercise for arthritis, or osteoporosis. But the way we're doing it here, in particular, is more oriented towards diabetes than other things. Good, and when you're done, stand up.
This is a straight training.
What's that?
The one that we just
It's strength training if you can do 15 or less. It's not strength training if you can do 15 or more. Which makes it a little confusing because what is strength training for you today may not be strength training for you in 2 weeks. Because you're getting stronger. Right? Make sense?
Yeah. So
Good.
if you more than I will increase.
Go on leg. Okay. So progression, by the way, is key. So whatever you're doing today, you should be doing more 2 weeks down the line. You should do more 4 weeks down the line. Remember, the more of a beginner you are, the faster you make progress. So even next workout, you're going to be stronger. 2 workouts, you're going to be even stronger. So you should every workout, you should strive to increase one small variable. Whether it's do 1 more repetition, 1 more pound, a little bit faster, a little bit slower, a little faster and slower, making it up, okay? So progression is absolutely critical towards exercise programming. Okay?
How often should we be doing this?
Just with your medication, you don't take your medication one day, blood pressure goes up. Exercise, now you don't have to do it every day, but you strength training 3 to 4 days a week. And then the other 3 days a week should probably be cardio or some sort of activity. Okay? Now it doesn't have to be all cardio, just taking your dog for a walk, that counts. You can do some gardening, that counts. Okay? You do ballroom dancing, that counts. Right? So these are some exercises for diabetes. Okay? These are just 3. Okay? With obviously when we work with you personally, we develop more comprehensive programs, but these are just a few examples. Number 2, osteoarthritis. Now this one is a little tricky. Why? Because everybody's got different muscle imbalances, so I can't show you one good arthritis program because everybody's so different. But here's how you assess whether your posture is good or not. So come with me back against the wall. Actually, before you step against the wall, watch me first. What you're going to try and do is your feet are going to be maybe 6 to 12 inches away from the wall, and you're going to try and slide your hand through. Let's see what you can do without arching your back.
do you say feet together or feet apart?
It doesn't matter, as long as they're 6 to 12 inches away from the wall. Again, try to slide your hand through without arching your back. So that's what that so is. Come back. Okay. Now, who was able to slide their hands all the way through? Okay. Who couldn't get their hands in at all? Okay. And who could only get up to the lung line? Okay? If you could get it up to the middle knuckle, that's ideal. If you could slide it all the hand, if you could slide your hand all the way through, you are at risk for osteoarthritis. That's not good. If you couldn't get it in at all, you're also at risk for osteoarthritis or a different reason. Okay? So again, the ideal is up to the middle knuckle. So if you were able to slide it all the way through, which the majority of us were, it means you have exaggerated lower back curve, so the joints in your vertebrae, your lower back, are kind of going like this. Okay? They are sliding by each other, wearing out the cartilage. We reverse that. We optimize your posture. Remember this. Posture is 95% habit, 5% conditioning. Posture is 95% habit, 5% conditioning. So, you good up. When we're trying to improve your posture, what do we have you do? When we're trying to improve your posture, what do we have you do?
Posture exercises.
Okay, what specifically?
Like specifically tell you the exercise?
Not the exercise, but what are you doing when you're not exercising?
Proper nutrition.
What's that?
Proper nutrition and also.
For your posture.
I'm sorry?
For your posture.
You make me like try and stand up straight and do other like.
And what do we do specifically for it?
Always keep the neck like tucked in and the back straight.
How frequently?
At least every hour each day.
Every waking hour, okay? Every waking hour, he sets a reminder for himself in his BlackBerry, right? Good boy. So he sets a reminder for himself in his BlackBerry to just remind himself to straighten out, okay? So again, posture, 95% conditioning, 95% habit, 5% conditions. So, again, very, very easy. You can do this anywhere. Get a BlackBerry, get an iPhone, whatever. Set a reminder for yourself to once every waking hour, or more frequently, ideally more frequently, to straighten out, have good posture, okay? And then the 5% when you're actually in the gym or at home, you're exercising, here are some things you can do. One exercise is this. So if you have the lower back curve, you lie down on your back, feet up on the chair or something else, and then just push your lower back into the ground and rest there. Hold that position for a long period of time. We're talking 20, 25 minutes. It's not a strenuous exercise, it's not a difficult exercise, but remember, you are alive 24 hours a day. To reverse that, you need to do something strong in those 20 minutes. Okay, so you need to counterbalance that. And that's why you do it 20, 25 minutes. So it's not a tough exercise, but it's important to get done. The greater lower back curve. Question?
I've done that before.
Yeah.
Different days. I can sit on the computer all day.
Yeah.
Come home and it back feels relieved.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it reverses everything that you do in front of the computer during the day. Okay. So very, very important to do an exercise like that that reverses all the stuff you do.
Is there a certain point, like how high should you?
So that's the next point. How high should you be? The greater your lower back curve, the higher that chair should be. As you get better, as your lower back curve gets smaller, the lower you can go until eventually your feet are on the ground. You can hold that for 20 minutes without strain. 20, 25 minutes.
And should your legs be straight or can you bend?
Straight. Straight is absolutely critical.
Can you do it up against the wall?
What do you mean?
Head down, but your legs up.
No, I need to be able to, your wall will support your legs.
Or, sorry, I mean bend, like your legs.
No, you need to be on the platform. You need to be on the platform and push your lower back into the ground. Absolutely. Here's another one you can do. This is everybody's favorite. It's called holding a small globe. We're going to do it all together. So have a seat. Okay, and just watch me first. Okay. And here's what you do. Straighten out. Feet about hip width apart. Hands up. And reach up for 1 minute. And here's the key. Don't let the lower back round. Sorry, don't let the big bending back round. For the sake of the camera, I'll show you this angle. So there. That's what you want. You reach up or you pivot it, elbow straight. You're trying to push the earth up. I'm going to time this to say 1 minute. Okay? So I'm going to come around and straight you guys up. Ankle very good. Excellent. Lisa very good. Karen very good. Carol very good. Something that right. Straighten out the elbows. That's it. Straighten out. Good. Reach up hard. Good. Let's reach right here. There. Good. Straighten out, Carol. Oh, you're very stiff here. And then arms back. There. And reach up, up, up. Let go, but stay here. Maintain position. Good. Okay. Continue. Yes. Back. There. Some of you guys have stiff shoulders. Camille. Not bad. There. Turn it out. Reach hard. Hard. Good. 20 more seconds.
I definitely like to do a little better.
I thought so. Kind of combo. Good. Hold it, and reach up. Continue to reach up. Reach up the whole time. 5 seconds. Good. Stop. Who liked that? I liked it. Alright. So see, who's been doing this? Let's get into demonstrating. That's it. Now face sideways. That's it. See how straight that is over here? See, like a little bit bent inwards? That's a good boy. Good. Stand up. We can practice it. Excellent. So those are a few good exercises for your posture, which will optimize your alignment and that prevent your osteoarthritis just in the spine. Okay? We're not talking so much hips, we're not talking so much knees, but this is an example of one exercise that will help you with the osteoarthritis in the back. Good? Osteoporosis up. Now, with diabetes, we want to do high repetitions, 10 to 15 repetitions or so. With osteoporosis, you can do the same exercises, use a heavier weight, but do fewer repetitions, between 4 and 10. Okay? So this time, let's all grab a weight, if it's available. And all we're going to do is a squat. Down, up, with the weight. Okay? Maybe like a 30 go for you.
Please, I'll lower weight.
It's fine. Hold on, we got it. That's it. Okay. Do you want to wait? Sure. Okay, sure. Alright, so here's how you hold on to it just by carrying just like Carol, just like Igor was holding it. So hold on to it like this. Okay? Like give it up, like you know, there, hold it. Okay? And then down. And up. Good. That's it. So make sure that when you're squatting, you don't look down. Look forward. Good. Take a look forward. Always look forward. That's it. Good. Perfect.
I feel a little bit in my back of my.
If you feel lower back pain, it could be intense, and B, your toes are turned out too much, you won't move about 15 degrees. Good. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Better, yeah. Louise has great feet, so Louise, go on up here. Yeah, face that way. Really? Yeah, that was good. Let's see it. Freeze. Good. Go down again. Good. See the depth? That's perfect. Round of applause. Yeah, that's really good. And come back. Okay. So again, with osteoporosis, you want to do heavier weights, lower repetitions. Yeah.
Is a kettlebell like that better?
Any weight is weight. It doesn't matter if it's big, it doesn't matter if it's flat, it doesn't matter if it's a child, it doesn't matter if it's a sack of potatoes, it doesn't matter if it's furniture, your body doesn't know the difference.
It's not doing that.
Okay? Yeah. So that's part 1 for osteoporosis. Part 2 is what? We want impact. So we've got to jump. So the first thing you do is jump onto something. Okay? So to start with gentle, we're going to go right here. All you do is jump on. That's it. That's the ball. On. That's the ball. Okay. So that's the first step. Make sure you're really fast. Without it. Well, the higher you go, the more impact you have. The more impact you have the bones. Yeah, you want some hardcores.
No, it's just
You can't get it first, it's just and so you work with that.
it's funny. Just because of the joint identical. I have to walk up.
No. Phase 2, I'll show you what it is. Okay, I put back and show you phase 2. Alright, so here's phase 2. Phase 1 is we jump onto something which is a little bit less impact than phase 2, which is jumping up and down in spot. And then again. Okay. That's it.
You land with your knees bent.
Yeah, you land with a slightly flipped bent knees. That's it. Good, good, good. And you want to jump with your feet apart. That's it.
You point your toes, okay?
What's that?
You point your toes, it's okay?
Yeah, and you want to jump as high as possible. If you can't jump, don't jump.
Try.
Yeah, if your ankle's hurt, don't do it. Okay, so that's phase 2. Phase 3 is you jump off of something. Okay, so for example, you jump off the platform, stick landing. And then again. Okay, so the more you, so that's phase 3. That's when you have the most impact on your joints, on your bones. Okay, that's when you get the greatest strength and benefit on your bones. That's when it's really gonna have an effect. Now, for those people who are at high risk for osteoporosis or already have osteopenia, don't do this one right now. Do it a few months down the line. You've done the other exercises, so you have that kind of strength. Okay. Any questions? Good, good. Okay. Less than that.
Sorry.
Yes.
If one leg can't withstand that, if by using just the other leg, will I not be creating an imbalance?
Yeah. So here's what you do. The question was, if you use one leg, let's say one leg is injured, so you can only jump on one leg, only create balances. Yes. And so here's what you do. Yes, that's from jumping, but when you can't jump for knee or ankle or hip issues, here's what you do. You go against the wall for a hard surface, and yeah, you're going to look silly, but you bump your hip into it gently. Bump your hip. Do that for 30 seconds. Switch hips. 30 seconds. Okay. Rest that way. Do that for about 2 minutes each. 1 month later, your bones are going to be denser. So ask any questions you like.
So the process though, the jumping over process is not really good, especially at the beginning, right?
Yeah, that's what it's in the phases. That's why phase 1, you don't jump at all, it's just strength training. Phase 2, strength training plus jumping onto something. Phase 3, strength training plus jumping in place. Phase 4, strength training plus jumping off something.
So the porosis and the osteoarthritis is the same kind of exercises?
No. Osteoarthritis, you just correcting muscular imbalances. Osteoporosis, you're going for impact.
Got it.
Again, depending on how strong your bones are. Other questions? Anything else?
What's a good arch support for the feet?
Arch support exercises?
No, some kind of a protection, some kind of a wrap or something protected for the. I have flat feet basically,
yeah.
So I feel that sometimes jumping off or doing some crazy exercises makes my arch hurt more.
Oh, I see.
So I need some kind of a support to kind of tie it up and just.
For that, you might have to talk to either a chiropractor or a chiropodist. You might need some orthotics or something like that.
Right, but is there like a wrap or something that just wrap it like a band?
No, not that I'm aware of. Basically, your orthotics, and that's pretty much it.
So wear the shoes, basically, don't do barefoot.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You can also do arch strengthening exercises. So basically, put a towel under your foot and then use your toes to curl it in.
Oh yeah,
Any other questions? Okay, you good to get back up? Great. Alright, so we had a question about set point?
Yes.
Okay. So the question was, is there an actual set point that doesn't allow you to get down in terms of body fat level? The answer is yes, but no. So the answer is, most people can get down a certain percentage of body fat, and then they get stuck. That's called a plateau. Why do plateaus happen? It's because toxins are stored in body fat. Now, if your liver, kidney, large intestine, lungs are not working properly, your toxins will not get eliminated properly. So they attach to your thyroid, okay? And your thyroid is your gas pedal on your metabolism. Okay, and so that's when you plateau with fat loss. Now, if you're gonna do if once you reach that plateau, you do a detox, you give yourself an additional thyroid support, liver support, small intestine, large intestine, lungs, kidneys, you're able to continue losing body fat. Does that answer the question? Yeah. Great. Other questions? All right. 10 things you learned in the last hour and a half. Okay, 1. I'm out of shape.
What did she say?
I'm out of shape.
Oh. So the 20, okay, the weight when we were doing the squats with the weight,
Yeah.
I think it was a 25.
Different people had different weights.
It wasn't easy.
Yeah.
It was hard.
Good.
That's good.
Yes. Hard is good. I'm sorry.
How was, with us just starting out, how do we make sure that we, when she was started going up to 25 pounds, how do we know we're not going to injure ourselves?
A, you want clean technique. So, and B, you probably working with a professional is not a bad idea. Number 2, what else did we learn in the last hour and a half?
It's a progression of the exercises?
Yes, progression is key. Don't jump into phase 4 right off the bat. You're going to break something. Number 4.
Well, it's nice to know that you can do a sit-up on the wall, from the wall.
Yeah.
That was huge plus.
There you go. Good. Number 5. What else do we got? And give you repeats. What's that?
Sorry, I think we're resting after the exercise.
Oh, catching your breath.
The blood's going back to the brain now.
My head is still on the weights.
And it could be repeats of what we learned before.
Sorry?
Could be repeats of what we learned before the exercise.
Don't do more than 15. And
Not don't do more than 15.
No,
Just
sorry.
that
If you can do more than 15,
raise the weight.
then you have to, yeah, it's too easy.
Exactly. Number 6.
Can I ask a question instead?
No. No, just
I'll ask Tuesday instead then.
Okay. Let's ask now. Go ahead.
When I'm squatting, I'm feeling it in my legs. Is that what I'm supposed
That's
to feel
correct.
it?
Squats should be felt in your quads. Yeah.
Now,
although they were the quads, hamstrings, and glutes all together. Yes.
The glutes and the quads. That's what I was feeling most of. The quads
Exactly.
mostly, a little bit in the glutes.
Yeah. So that's perfectly correct. Yeah. Good. Number 7.
So if you don't feel anything with you,
If you don't feel anything, it's too easy.
okay, so I'll increase the weight then?
Yes.
Okay.
Strong legs. Good for you. Good. Number 7.
that all of the so-called diseases can be reversed, unlike what some doctors say.
Right, to some extent. Some people are beyond, if they're too far gone, I mean, there's a limited amount of reversal that can happen, right? If they're near death, I mean, that's
No, but like
late.
if you're like, you know, like us now, and we
Yeah.
have some areas, but we can improve,
Sure.
it can improve our
absolutely.
health.
Yeah, there's room for improvement for every person, from the frail to the elite. Yeah.
And like you said, like out there, they don't say that.
No,
They
exactly.
say, so this is your prognosis,
Yeah.
and in 15 years it's going to get a little worse, and it's going, you know.
Yeah. Exactly. There's something called the name it, blame it, and tame it phenomenon. You have a collection of symptoms, you name those symptoms, and it gives the patient a little peace of mind because there's a name for what you have. But it says nothing about causation, nothing about what causes what you have. And then you tame it with a drug. Name it, blame it, and tame it. That's from Dr. Mark Hyman.
But why didn't they put more researches on preventive medicine then?
They have it, but preventive medicine is bad for business.
Yeah, I know.
Only if you have a good doctor, you know about it.
No, that's so outrageous. Like it's so.
No,
bad.
but
It's the drug
nowadays
companies doing the research.
So
Yeah.
nowadays the doctors put out a prescription to go exercise.
So we're masking. It's masking and
It's
not
masking the symptoms,
going
it's
to
not
the root of
addressing
it.
their root causes, yeah. It's like fat loss. If all you do is just exercise and eat right, but you don't address the root causes of fat gain, you're not going to be able to lose body fat, long term anyway. The statistic is of all the people who lose body fat, 5 years later, only 1 in 100,000 is able to maintain that. Why? Because if all you do is exercise and eat better, yeah, you're losing fat, but you're not addressing the root causes. So there are 8 hidden reasons why people don't lose body fat. They include anemia, low iron, low B12, low folate, digestive dysfunction. They include brain neurochemistry, problems with brain chemistry, problems with your thyroid, problems with your adrenals, problems with toxins, and a number of other ones. Okay, so that's what we go through in that 321 symptom questionnaire to figure out, do you have those reasons? Okay.
So if you do have anemia, do any of the exercises you showed us should not be stored?
No, all the exercises, even with anemia, should be done.
So when's your class on nutrition? And
What's mine?
When's the class on nutrition and supplementation?
Well, if there's demand for it, well, we'll do it.
Because I'm getting a sense that great exercise is great, but it's not
But it's
the
not
be-all
enough.
and end-all.
Yeah.
As we need to balance the muscles in our body from the front and the back, we need to balance our exercise with our nutrition.
Absolutely, and supplementation
And
and lifestyle.
supplementation, so like, how then can we move forward without this?
I'll tell you 5 minutes.
Okay.
Okay, number 9.
Jumping is a great exercise.
Jumping is the best exercise for strengthening bones. In fact, it's necessary, yeah. Number 10.
Having a
Push-up.
professional.
Okay, 10 and 11.
I was gonna say, having a professional makes a big difference because I might have done the exercise that was the third one, and I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah,
It ties into
exactly.
progression, but I wouldn't know what that proper progression is.
Right.
If I wasn't working with someone to give me that advice, or if you hadn't told us right there.
Progression is absolutely critical, yeah. Yeah, 11.
So it seems like push-ups against the wall are better than push-ups from the knees.
I wouldn't say so. It just depends on your level. If you can do push-ups, if you can do 100 push-ups from the wall, they're not doing you much benefit.
Or like from some kind of a chair elevated.
Yeah, and again, progression is key. You might start against the wall. As you get stronger, you might lower yourself down to until you can do a regular push-up.
And skip the knees altogether.
And skip the knees altogether.
Yeah.
Don't demoralize yourself.
Is skipping as good for you as jumping?
No, because skipping, you're only jumping high enough to clear the rope, which is less than an inch. Whereas jumping, you're going to have more impact. Any other questions?
But to start with, you can start with skipping.
It's a good first step, yeah. It's a good first step. Anything else? Great.